Perfect. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Fernie City Council held at 6 p.m. on June 13th, 2023. Thank you for joining us. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukanamakas, the unceded traditional territory of Yakut-Atmaquiyik. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. The Kanahunik are from Yakut-Atmaquiyik and are members of the Tanana-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. I call the meeting to order at 6:02. And this meeting is being conducted by in-person and electronic means in accordance with Council Procedure Bylaw number 2446. And I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the following staff recommendation: that if the communication link to the specified place for this meeting is interrupted and cannot be restored within 15 minutes, the meeting shall adjourn and reconvene to the soonest possible time that quorum can be achieved and public notice requirements met. Moved by Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Ramadas. Any discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the approval of the agenda and any late items. No late items. Moved by Councillor Adia Kelly, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes of regular council meeting held on May 23rd, 2023. Mover. Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Adia Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor? I'll now open the, I'll now open the floor to public participation and invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to local government prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit, and a speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. Now I'll check in with Ms. Bailey. Is there anybody online or at the specified place, Ms. Bailey, who's indicated they want to speak?
There is no one present at the specified place and no hands have been raised online.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bailey. That takes us to item 8.1. There is no staff report for this. This is Waste Regulation Bylaw 1845, Amendment Bylaw number 2492/2023 for adoption. And I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following staff recommendation: that council adopt Waste Regulation Bylaw 1845, Amendment Bylaw number 2492/2023. Moved by Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Again, no staff report for item 8.2, Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw number 2041, Amendment Bylaw number 2493/2023 for adoption. And the following staff recommendation, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for this recommendation: that council adopt Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw number 2041, Amendment Bylaw number 2493/2023. Moved by Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion? I had a question. Do I address it to you, Ms. Lyons? So, sorry, I'll just open the document. Forgive me. I'm just seeking clarification. On the fee schedule, or in the appendix for charges, item 1 and item 2, accumulation, placement, storage, or collection of wildlife attractants in the manner, and I apologize, there is an extra in there, in a manner that attracts wildlife. First offense, so the $250 fine is in direct relation to attracting wildlife, not the placement of an attractant at the curb, as it were, before.
Your Mayor, that's a good English question.
Because I noted that item 3 on the fee schedule, placement of wildlife attractants on any highway in a residential area prior to 5 a.m. or designated collection day remains a $50 fine. But the way I read this, the other 2 are directly related to actually attracting wildlife. Is that our intention, and we're clear on that?
Yes, that was the intention was to update those 2 because those would be the ones that you could have them any time. If you have your waste or recycling out at any time, that could attract wildlife, or in a manner that could attract wildlife.
Right.
So we wanted to have that bigger net of if someone does not store their waste bins in a garage or a shed or something like that, or puts things like apples out at the curb and is just waiting for someone to pick them up, that could also be something that could be fined. So it's not just waste and recycling bins, it's any wildlife attractant.
But is it directly related to attract? So the fine is a result of attracting wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to clear on that. Because I had a conversation with bylaw today just on that clarification, and I wanted to check with you if that was the intent.
To be honest, I did not update the wording of that. We just updated the fine part of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor McCausland.
Thank you, Worship. I'm with you because now, bearing in mind that I'm not a lawyer, but if I read that right now, the implication is it's not a finable offense until wildlife is attracted. But if somebody's putting a big pile of apples at the end of their driveway and naming them, and we know that there's bears in the area, like, do we have to wait till a bear starts eating apples before they can be fined? Is that the intention of that? As opposed to in a manner that is likely to attract wildlife, or in a manner that could attract wildlife, or like, I don't want to wordsmith it here.
No, I know, do I, and I wondered if, on that note, we maybe wanted to refine that language a little bit to provide some clarity, not just for ourselves, but the enforcement.
And just as a follow-up to that, Your Worship, the wording as it is, if the intent is we really want to pull out the big fines when it's happened.
Right.
Right? Not that someone has made a mistake and they left apples at the end of the driveway. It wasn't their intention to attract bears, and so maybe they don't deserve a $250 fine. But if bears are feeding them and not cleaning up, at that point, a more significant acknowledgement of that is necessary. So if that's the intention of the way that works, then I'm quite happy with it.
And I'm comfortable with that intention as well. I just wanted to point out to council that it maybe reads a little bit differently than I think we discussed when we discussed this language. So I just wanted to make sure the council was aware of that, and we're comfortable with that intent. I'm seeing nodding heads, so any further discussion?
We gotta go past the motion.
So with that in mind, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? So we'll adopt the language with that intent, and if somebody could get rid of that extra thing, that would be. Thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to be fanatic. This brings us to item 9.1, development variance permit application number DVPA 548 901A 9th Avenue. Report from Director Lennox. Will you be presenting this one?
Yes, Mayor Mulligan.
Thank you.
So before council is development variance permit 548. The address is 901 9th Avenue. The zoning on this property is R1. It's a bit of a historic anomaly in that it's an existing 4-unit multifamily Walnut Building. So the variance itself would allow the applicant to construct an attached garage and mudroom by varying the zoning bylaw for the R1 single-family residential regulations as follows. Maximum parcel coverage would be increased from 35% to 42.8%. That's in keeping with the R3 zoning maximum parcel coverage, which if this had a larger frontage and site or parcel size, it would be zoned R3, but it doesn't. The rear yard setback is proposed to be reduced from 6 meters to 1.5 meters. So planning staff evaluated this variance in the context of the neighborhood. It's determined that it would have minimal neighborhood impact, and that it was a corner property with the development proposed buffered by 9th Street and the lane. The overall existing proposed development is low-lying, so that's the fourplex itself. Believe it or not, is only 5.18 meters, and that's well below the maximum level height of 10 meters. The proposed attached garage is also below the maximum allowable height for a detached garage, which is 5 meters. I think it was just over 4.5 meters. And the proposed parcel coverage, as I mentioned, is comparable with the equivalent in the R3 regulations, used as a guide based on the existing non-conforming use of the site. So the recommendation is that council approve development variance permit application VPA 548 and give notice of their intention to consider the issuance of this variance for 901 9th Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lennox. Any questions? Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Just curious, so this R1 is going to stay in R1 and just not become an R3? And was it suggested to the applicants that rezoning might be easier than doing BBPA and BBP, or no?
Yeah, Mayor Milligan through to Councilor Nixon. So this would be, as I mentioned, is a bit of a historic anomaly. It was probably built prior to the zoning coming into effect, and there was an error made when the blanket R1 zoning was imposed on the annex due to the, so it is considered lawful non-conforming, so it can exist as it is, and we did explain that to the landowners. We're fine with that. We can't rezone it to the appropriate R3 zone, and that it doesn't meet the frontage requirements of the R3 zone, which are 20 meters. This has a front. This site has a frontage, I think, at 18 just over 18 meters. Doesn't meet the parcel size as well for the R3 zone, and doesn't meet the density for the R3 zone. So this is the only tool that we can use to enable or facilitate this type of development. And in terms of parking, we've had some discussions of having road access on lanes. The parking for the attached garage would be sited to the street, so there would be 2 parking stalls within the garage itself, accessed from the street, and then there would be 2 tandem parking stalls established in front of the attached garage. And there's also 2 parking stalls on the avenue, so they have 6 off-street parking stalls. And we haven't had any complaints whatsoever in terms of off-street parking or posted on it.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Lennox. I actually lived down the street for a minute, and I never thought there was an issue with parking around that building.
And I may add, Your Worship, the size and scale of it kind of demonstrates you can do it. Like a typical city size R1 zone lot. So it fits in nicely with the neighborhood.
Any other questions for Director Ryan? Seeing none, well, I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the following recommendation: that council approve development variance permit application number DVPA 548 and give notice of their intention to consider the issuance of development variance permit number DVP 548 901A Ninth Avenue. Moved by Councilor McCusick, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
We now move on to item 9.2, a presentation for Director of Engineering and Public Works, the Mount McLean and Cicado intersection redesign. Mr. Heisler.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan and Council. A pretty quick presentation to accompany the report. We're discussing the intersection of Mount McLean and Cicado. There's a bit of an issue with documentation on this one. There might be historical knowledge in the community, but we found some, what we suspect are preliminary designs that showed Mount McLean going straight through. Some of them showing the hockey stick, kind of the lower arrow, going more at a straight line towards Cicado. We've all driven that road though, and we know that it's a pretty steep approach and probably not realistic. What we do know is constructed in 1979, and there was some upgraded paving in there in 2013. Couple of issues with going straight through if that were the plan. This is why we suspect it was a preliminary concept design, was it would actually go through property that the city didn't own there on the other side of the tracks in the red circle on the right picture. As well, we do not actually have a road dedication on this road. You can see on the left picture, the rectangle coming down kind of ends somewhere towards the end of the fence line there. So, although it is city land, we do not have a road dedication. So we're kind of trying to figure out what's actually going on here, and our suspicions are this was never actually properly engineered. Some other issues on this intersection are, there is a railway. I suspect it's a natural gas substation or some type of facility right there below the rail. And then at the top of the rail, we have very poor angle of approach and sight lines for a proper intersection, all feeding into our suspicion that this wasn't properly designed. Relating to this intersection, it's been analyzed through 3 documents. The IICP did identify this as a very low priority.
Sorry, Mr. Heisler, can you, for our viewers at home, can you tell us what IICP is?
Sure, Integrated Infrastructure Capital Plan.
Thank you.
So that is an all-capturing document that helps guide our priority approach towards repairing everything we own, water, sewer, streets. A little side note on that is we are doing the pavement condition assessment, which is kind of the final piece to that puzzle this year. Additionally, the Active Transportation Master Plan, that's the ATMP, identifies this intersection as a missing link in the pedestrian network. And then we did in 2017 have an ICBC traffic control review, and they also advised a quote-unquote additional investigation due to the complications.
Councilor McCusick.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question. I'm wondering if there could be some elaboration on missing link. Is the intent there that there should be, it should be part of the pedestrian network, but is not identified as, or that it's never been identified as part of the pedestrian network?
It should be part of the pedestrian network in the future.
Okay, thanks.
So in December of 2020,
Sorry, Councilor Schuster.
Yeah, through your worship to staff, the ICBC, traffic control review, that, I imagine that's not something they just do, that must be triggered, like, are they looking at that because that's been the site of a bunch of accidents, or what are we doing?
through Mayor Milligan to Councilor Shoesmith. Yeah, I guess that's maybe a bit misleading. It was a combined effort between ICBC and McElhenney to do a traffic control review of the entire city. And that's just a comment from that one intersection.
Okay, so it wasn't driven by.
No.
Thanks.
So engineering had identified this as an area of concern. So in December of 2022, we got an estimate on a redesign for this intersection. However, we deferred the project design because we suspected the actual construction costs of this rehabilitation, realignment, and elevation changes would be quite substantial due to the angles, the elevation slopes, sight lines, the rail, and the natural gas. So we could design it for 20, but when would we actually build it? Looking at all of our master plans telling us it's a lower priority. So a bit of a breakdown. We know that there are sightline issues, angle of approach issues. It's been identified in the ATMP. It's been identified in the IICP, although a very low priority. We can't prove that there's actually been design, and all indications kind of say otherwise. We know the road's not dedicated. You could probably, if we wanted to go ahead with this design, I'd bump the budget up to roughly around 23, considering cost escalations over the last 6 months. And we do think construction of the actual solution would be substantial. So council can receive this report for information, or they can direct staff by resolution to advance this effort as a higher priority in the current fiscal year or a future year. And I have time for questions.
Councilor Ramdas.
Thanks, Your Worship. I have a question for Director Hosler there. I was reading the signed petition that some users had, and one of the immediate interim solutions that they were proposing was temporary lane barriers along the whole section of Mount McLean. How feasible is that?
I wouldn't do that without having an engineering study on the road width and proper travel lanes for safe pedestrians. And without putting words in their mouth, we have to look at, if we're gonna put in barriers, we would have to put in signage so we don't have cars ramping up on barriers, as well as a 30-day change of infrastructure or signage type signage that we have to put 30 years back from the intersection. So there's just a bit more to a temporary fix like that, as well as commenting on, snow plowing implications of a barrier and the sidewalk machine not being out there to clear the other side. Things like that, without deep diving into it today.
Well, I do suspect, looking at that road, and your comment from your report about the lack of a formal design for it, is quite narrow. And to segregate a walking path would almost make it a one-lane road.
Yeah. I mean, Mayor Milligan to council too, without putting words in anybody's mouth, I kind of suspect that this might have been an egress type situation that got paved, and now it's becoming more and more popular, and it never was really designed for that. But we're missing information, and we just don't have those pieces of the puzzle.
Any other questions, Mr. Heiser? I wonder, I know in your report, it indicated that ICBC does not favor a three-way stop there, that they aver from having stop signs on the through road. But it did strike me as a reasonable safety compromise in terms of the approach to that road, because as you say, the angle of approach is such that depending on the nature of your vehicle, looking over your shoulder and seeing what's coming down Cicada Road is a challenge.
Mm-hmm. There was 3 identified intersections in Fernie that have three-way stop signs, and ICBC did recommend against them. However, some past council resolutions, for example, at the intersection of 2nd Ave and 9th Street, do indicate to keep that as a three-way stop. So that would be something council could consider too. However, it doesn't solve the pedestrian problem.
No, it doesn't. No, that's there. Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Yeah, I would like to see a stop sign in there. I'd like to see on either direction. I've been standing there, I've been in my car, on my bike, I think it's $3,000 according to the staff report. The other solutions are, who knows? But, we have a lot of people that are coming across that road, and school's gonna end soon, but it doesn't solve the problem doesn't stop the problem in September.
No, and I'm not averse to that idea myself. I've often wondered why there wasn't other stop signs there, but I understand ICBC's, well, I guess I don't really understand ICBC's reluctance, except to say that there's established through traffic. But do we have a sense of the accident frequency at that corner?
Through your worship to councilor, I think ICBC might track data on that, but I would have to go away and come back. I don't know what detail they have, or I'm sure they would be willing to share.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really opposed to the stop sign there, but it feels an awful lot like a solution in search of a problem. And it doesn't actually address the concerns of the people who are asking about
Yeah,
safety
the
for children.
primary reason.
So, I mean, that feels a lot like doing something, but not doing something of actual good. So, I think one of the things in tangential to this subject is, this is just proof that that egress roads turn into real roads. And letting people build egress roads that are not up to standards eventually creates a problem for us later. So just as a good cautionary tale of what happens, not the only one in our community.
Not the most famous one.
Not the most famous one, no. So I would like to see something that addresses the intersection safety. I don't know if it's a stop sign or if it needs, the barriers put down the side or some sort of indication, or even just better signage to people to be aware that, there's lots of kids crossing. I'd like to see some more creative thinking at attacking what the solution is there, without necessarily requiring us to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars or whatever it takes to upgrade that roadway, because I don't think we're prepared to do that.
Yeah, and as I indicated, I'm sympathetic to Councilor Mason's thinking, because that's often been my thinking on that. But I also appreciate the notion of, let's think this through a bit further and see if we can come up with a broader solution. Councilor Schuster.
I'm a little unfamiliar with foot traffic there, but would it not be something to consider perhaps moving a path so the crossing point's not right in that bad spot? I mean, does it have to necessarily follow that road?
It's a great question.
It's a good question, I don't know.
Like, would it not be brought better at a more gentle slope across the hillside to the road a little further down, where the speed coming off the Cato's already, people can be flying along when you slow down right there, so perhaps that's not.
Potentially, but there again is private land. And,
Yes.
And construction costs and maintenance of a trail like that. Councilor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. While I agree with you're saying that, we have to think outside the box and have a better design consideration, my only concern is looking at the flurry of, not flurry of emails, but the emails that have come from these people from 2020. It's been 3 years since. And my worry is any good solution that we may end up with might take another 3 years. Whereas a two-stop sign is among one of their interim solutions that they have proposed already.
Right, that we were all on.
Yeah, so I don't know, I understand, this is looking like, solution seeking the problem kind of a deal, but still a two-stop sign might be worth pursuing.
Yeah, as I say, I don't disagree. I'm quite sympathetic to that question. Will it, as has been indicated, doesn't necessarily address the problem, but it is one interim solution. Councilor Schuster.
Thank you. It strikes me that it's a couple order of magnitudes less than any other potential solution, seeing as the people who've taken the time and effort to write us the letters obviously are quite familiar with that. If that's something they're suggesting, I mean, they probably have some grounding on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, would somebody be willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I've never made a motion before.
I can second
That's
that.
awkward, isn't it? Action staff to put in 2 stop signs
So
as soon as possible.
So moved. Can I get a second? Councilor Ramirez, any further discussion? Councilor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to speak against this. and this is in all deference to the community that's there that is concerned about this and so on, but we don't pick traffic situations on the basis of like people writing an email. We do it on the basis of engineering designs, on input from organizations who do this for a living, who provide us with information about what is best for safest, for traffic, for pedestrians and so on. We get, that's the type of input that should be driving the decision-making around vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic in our community. Absolutely, we should pay attention when people bring concerns to us, and we should ask, but the asking and the information that drives the decision-making should come from experts and people who do this for a living. None of which thus far. So I appreciate the gesture. This is aspirin for a broken leg. It's going to make everybody feel better for a few minutes. It is not solving the problem in any fashion. So this is just committing time for staff and committing money and not solving the problem.
Excellent, excellent thoughts. I think, however, if we were to go down the path of more consulting and thinking about this, probably the answer that would come back to us is something that we can't afford and would keep people waiting an additional many years. It's hard to find an ideal solution, but I think kicking the can down the road and doing another set of studies isn't necessarily going to serve anybody.
Well, as Mr. Heiser has indicated, if we advance this project both from a design review process and then potentially a construction process, something else has to move off the project list. So it, in terms of its priority, it may be some years out, and as such, I don't think it's a bad idea to employ an interim solution and test the result. Mr. Heiser.
Just two more tidbits of information for council and mayor to consider. The ICBC data portal shows no accidents from 2017 to April 2022. And there was a zebra crosswalk installed at the top of that hill 2019, forgive my memory on the year, to try to give the pedestrians something. Anyway, I just wanted to add that on into the discussion that you guys were having.
No, I appreciate that. And is it still maintained? And is there signage for that pedestrian zebra crossing?
Yeah, it may not be painted quite yet this year, but they're undergoing line painting right now.
Yeah, yeah. Councilor Kelly.
I have lived in that neighborhood for approximately 30 years. The road, I do suspect what Director Heisler said was accurate and that it was meant to be an egress road for that development. The road has been like that when the school had over 100 students, and I'm not minimizing the current safety concerns, but I tend to agree with Councillor McIsaac. Is it just a stopgap measure? I think it has to, unfortunately, with the other things that we're facing in the city, I think the priority is accurate. I'm just not sure if the stop signs, I have some concerns about that actually working, you know?
If people stop it?
Yeah.
Councilor Shoesmith and then Councilor Ramos.
I'll be succinct. It can be done and it can be undone. If this goes in for $3,000 and we decide that's no good, it can come back out for, I imagine, a bit less than
Just in terms of value versus ease here, Your Worship, the value is that there is going to be a little bit of psychological safety for many of the people in the community, and the cost of it is $3,000. I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the vote. The motion to install stop signs. All those in favor? 4 in favor. And those opposed? 2 opposed. And I like actually Councilor Shoesmith's comment about what can be done can be undone, and I think coupled with Councilor Ramirez's comment about psychological safety, I don't think it's a bad measure as a test. Appreciating, Mr. Heisler, thank you, that there hasn't been an accident recorded at that corner since 2017. Yeah, so thank you for that, good discussion. Staying with Mr. Heisler, direct a presentation on Waterworks bylaw number 2485, 2023.
There we go. So we're here tonight to talk about Waterworks bylaw number 2485, but just a little step back to kind of the big picture plan here. We currently have the consolidated water connection user charge bylaw, which we, in the future, we're aiming to take a couple things out of that and put them into this bylaw today. But that one will basically regulate the fees. The one that we're talking about tonight governs the waterworks system use and the rules, kind of. And then in the future, we would look at an outdoor watering bylaw to create the guidelines for outdoor water use outside of a metering system. So why are we here? We're currently open to liability and financial burdens with unauthorized water use or use of hydrants, damage to property shutoffs. We have no way to enforce leakage on private property. We have some wording in here to address wasting water, also unauthorized connections, and wording to get cost recovery on city works. And we have some, at the end, we have wording on enforcement and escalating fines. So a few big bullet points as we kind of rattle through here. The bylaw, it does prohibit bottling and sale, which the old one did, but we would bring that over. It prohibits wasting water. It addresses recirculating devices and appliances, so swamp cooling, for example. It addresses tampering with city facilities and infrastructure, so hydrants and curbs, etc. All works done in there recovers fees at costs, and this was a similar change to the consolidated water bylaw for a new service install. We changed to a cost recovery wording situation, same idea. It does have basic water restriction wording in it, so it will say something like council may enact watering restrictions. So there's something in there for us to lean on in the meantime while we work on engagement and the outdoor watering bylaw. And it does have offenses and penalties situation where the fines can be escalated and valued based on the offense. So, if somebody isn't fixing their leak and we go in and do the work, maybe there's a small fine, but if somebody illegally connects to our water system and depressurizes the neighborhood, the fine can be adjusted appropriately. It does clarify power of inspection and delegation right at the beginning. And the majority of this bylaw is an industry standard wording taken from other municipalities. Cranbrook, I went to some big cities too that had some really good wording like Vancouver and kind of put it all together into this bylaw. But it also has unique wording like the frozen water line wording, which would come out of the consolidated water fee bylaw and be brought into this, but also the wording be modernized into an enforceable bylaw language. And it does include consideration for water connection during construction, so a reduced rate for 6 months before they got kicked up to the full rate. Currently, we have nothing to really charge until the resident comes in for a license of occupation. And then in the bylaw, you'll see a couple dates in there are highlighted yellow. Those are all variable based on our discussions and council's direction for implementation of a ban on recirculating devices and a grace period for all the other items in the bylaw for people to come into compliance. What was kind of excluded was extensive watering metering clauses. Somebody like Vancouver had almost 2 pages on that, if not 3. So we're not ready for that yet. So that's been cut out and put on the shelf for later if needed. And then there's basic cross-connection wording in there that says, we don't want cross-connections. If you see them, let us know. But not a very extensive system until we have a really thorough cross-connection code. Yeah, I touched on this briefly. There is some basic wording on outdoor watering that allows council to make our current watering restriction communications more tied to a bylaw than a request to the residents, and give our bylaw officers a little bit more teeth when somebody's running their sprinkler every night for, multiple hours. But the next thing would be outdoor watering bylaw, which we're gonna be, in discussions internally, we're gonna be sorting out, and as discussed in previous council meetings, an extensive engagement and communication plan ahead of that one. This one is largely just industry standard wording. In development of this bylaw, following the course where it was developed, we did meet with each department listed on this sheet to get their comments and provide their input and discuss concerns. The final product is kind of what's in front of you. However, the one outstanding item is corporate admin does have this sent out for legal review, and we'll come back with those comments next time you look at this. Our plan going forward is to host an online information session with relevant contractors to gather feedback on the bylaw and to provide to council for consideration when we would bring it back for a reading. So our recommendation is that council direct staff to action the engagement phase, which is what I just mentioned, discussing with the contractors, and to bring this back at a later date for reviews or any of the other options listed here. And that's it. If there are any questions or for discussion.
Any questions for Mr. Eisen? Councilor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor. When are we gonna get water meters? I mean, every year I look at this water connection bylaw and I go, it's, $1.99 per seat for every restaurant in town, that's what they pay. Well, how do we maintain that? How do we enforce that or it's kind of crazy. It's just, what's the feasibility, Mr. Hustler, of getting water meters in our municipality?
Feasibility, through Mayor Milligan to council, the feasibilities, many communities have done it. The question is political will and money.
And cost, yeah. Councilor Eisen.
Thanks, Your Worship. Has it been costed before?
It has been costed, sorry, through Mayor Milligan to council. It has been costed before. Don't quote me the year, but I remember the number being either 2 or 2.5 million, but that was quite a while ago. I would expect quite a bit more.
Councilor McIver.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was disappointed to not see any reference in here to using your hose to wash the snow off the driveway. I can't believe that was missed. In all seriousness, though, I'd be curious to see what, and this may very well just be standard language, but I was interested in the language with regards to the authority of the collector and the engineer to enter the premises at a reasonable time, with no mention of like notice given or anything like that. I'm just curious, is that standard language, and like is that likely to pass vetting from legal, that we can just walk into someone's property whenever we want? I mean, I don't know what a reasonable time is, presumably not 4 in the morning, but
Through Mayor to council, I think it's more along the lines of entering the property, like crossing the property line to inspect a leak on their property. Funny enough, we do have 2 around town that we know of right now where we can't make them repair it, nor can we enter private property to repair it and charge them the cost. That's what that wording is in there for. We're not going to be barging in people's doors. And speaking to the snow watering, that is written in the outdoor watering bylaw.
okay, very good.
But there is wording in here about wasting water.
Wasting water, yes. Thank you.
And for me, and I don't know what bearing this has on it, but after our tour on Saturday, and you're highlighting that we have aging infrastructure and some challenges, but we do identify, we make a priority of identifying and addressing leaks in our own infrastructure. And I felt like, and forgive me, that's an important piece of framing for the rest of the community, that we are taking that on your behalf as a city. And I don't know that would apply in terms of context in any of these documents, but I think that's an important consideration that people need to understand, that we know we have this aging infrastructure. We work very diligently to address these leaks, to save both costs and not to waste water, and that as such, we would, part of the impetus of this change is to encourage, whether it's, through soft means or punitive means, people to do the same. And I think, sorry, go ahead.
Mayor Milligan, through to Councilor Mayor Milligan, that's also the water portion of the IICP has like those problem lines identified and targeted. However, as discussed in our tour, this year's water money is all going towards the reservoir work, so unfortunately, like this year, there's none of that work happening, but we're targeting a bigger priority problem.
Well, no, we saw the one up at Parkwood Terrace there that you're actually actively
Yeah,
resolving.
in a couple weeks, that leak will be tackled.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. Thank you, any other questions? Councilor Nixon?
Just a few more. I was just wondering what the frequency of individuals using hydrants. I mean, if there's I read in the report that people are using hydrants to fill up their trucks and stuff like that. Is there some sort of special key that we can use that, that would prevent them from doing that? I mean, Brendan might know. Chief Morgan might know that.
Through your worship, Councilor Nixon, then I'll let Brendan get his 2 cents in. There is a special key for the top, but unfortunately, you can get anything on the internet these days.
Chief Morgan, did you have a comment?
Your mayor to Council Nixon. Yeah, you can use a wrench, a good heavy duty wrench to do that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you whispered that. Before I read the recommendation, I wondered actually in something for consideration in the Schedule A water use charges. There's no mention of RV resorts or campsites, which we, as a growing community, should consider and include.
Sorry, through to Mayor Milligan, are you talking fees?
Yeah.
Because we would keep that in the other one, the fee, consolidated water fees bylaw.
Right.
Yeah. We would.
For consideration in that bylaw, though, this schedule doesn't mention them.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the
Okay,
question.
we were,
Page 73.
yeah, I actually printed them, or PDF them differently.
Oh.
So under the water connection document that was circulated with your report, consolidated water connection and use charge bylaw, if this is part of the overall revision, I would suggest we need to include that.
Sorry for the confusion, I
No.
understand the question. Through to Mayor Milligan, the intent was not to really redo the consolidated water fee one. It was included in there to show to council, for example, the frozen water line portion of it, I think it's 12, would come out, and then that would go into here. I believe I noted that in my report, that there are 2 sections. Section 12, prohibition for water bottling plants, and section 13, frozen water services, would come out of that one and live in this new one tonight. The intent of tonight wasn't to crack open this.
No, sorry, I appreciate that, but I just wonder why we don't consider those uses in that. And maybe this question can't be answered this evening, but campgrounds for RV parks should be in consideration.
Yes, we should, and I believe Director Burdett had touched on that in the past, but I forget where it was left off.
Okay, thank you.
Senior Boronski.
Mr. Boronowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Hausler is right. This is on a list of updates to complete, and some consultation has to be done, but it is one of the fees that needs a review and needs to be updated for water and wastewater, specifically campgrounds and RV resorts.
So on that note, if there's no further discussion, I will ask our mover and a seconder for the following recommendation that council designate, was reading the, no resolution required. Where am I here? Do you require a resolution to advance this? No?
Yes, I think the option we had brought forward, just bear with me. while I get it
Yeah,
down.
sorry, it's not in my,
I have something actually engagement, Dustin.
thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That council directs staff to advance the waterworks bylaw number 2485, 2023 to a future council meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Dang. Moved by Councilor McIsaac, seconded by Councilor Audie Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Unanimous.
That is confusing.
It was a bit.
The Schedule A lists everything else except for that.
Yeah.
So why not?
Why not?
Yeah. I was just.
Thank you. Thank you for collaborating. Thank you, Mr. Isaac. And now a presentation from our corporate officer, the 2023 UBCM convention meeting requests.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there is no PowerPoint tonight. I am giving this report on behalf of our Director of Corporate Administration, Mr. McConnell. And so this report has been provided to support council discussion on which ministers you would like to make a meeting request with for the 2023 UBCM convention. So as you know, the convention will take place in Vancouver the week of September 18th. And ahead of the conference, we have the opportunity to request meetings with the Premier, ministers, minister staff, commissions, as well as Crown corporations. So these are brief meetings, however, they are crucial because they allow our team to engage directly with the province on specific topics affecting our community. In Mr. McConnell's report, he provides a history of our meeting requests and engagements in 2022, as well as outlining suggested priorities for 2023. So tonight, we don't need any specific direction from council, but what we're hoping to do is have an initial discussion on what meetings you would like to apply for, where our priorities are for the 2023 convention, and then we will bring this back to next week's committee of the whole for a little bit of a further conversation, as well as at that time ask council to provide staff specific direction on which ministers you would like to meet with. We will actually not be making, oh no, I'm gonna stop there, I'm gonna start again. So for the ministers, we have a deadline of Friday, June 30th to make our request. For ministerial staff, Crown corporations, commissions, that deadline is a bit further out in the summer. So we would still want direction from you next week on that. However, we still have a bit of wiggle room with, it sounds wrong to say the lower down staff, but the people a little bit further down the pole. So I am just here to help facilitate conversation between council on who you would like to meet at UBCM.
Thank you, Ms. Dang. Comments? Councilor Guys.
Thank you, Worship. The list of ministers and the subject matters from last year's UBCM are included on page 81 of our agenda. I would suggest that all of these continue to be ongoing issues with the possible exception of the RCMP contract discussion with regards to public safety and Solicitor General and RCMP services. But I mean, as far as discussions regarding wastewater treatment, daycare, education, Highway 3, intersections, challenges with mental health and lack of psychiatrists, these are all still pertinent issues. And certainly I think it would behoove us to continue to press the ministers on these particular subjects. Without speaking to further ones that we might be having, just to address the history from last year and what we should for this year.
Yeah, thank you for that. I echo your comments that they all still seem vitally important to our community and its future. I don't know if folks have had time to consider additional potential meetings or Councilor Ramirez.
I was just wondering how this will dovetail with the meeting we have on June 20th with the Minister of Environment. Is that right? Was not a formal meeting, but
Yeah, there is I believe June 20th.
June 20th?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, is that like a staging ground for UBCM meeting, or is it just separate discussion?
Well, I would suspect we can use it as a staging ground for, but I don't know, how do I put this, the intent of that meeting from the minister's perspective. So the minister may be coming with an agenda to speak about certain things, and accordingly we can insert, our desires, but likely, or potentially, there are those in the room more familiar with this than I am, potentially that will in turn be deferred until the minister and BCM. Councilman Kyle.
Thank you, Worship. Again, I also do not know the agenda of the minister, they may be coming entirely on their own thing.
Yeah.
But part of the meetings at UBCM to engage with the ministers is to ensure that we will get follow-up on the issues from there. So it is, I'm optimistic, I guess, and hoping that they're perhaps following up on some of the initiatives that have been directed to them by ourselves and other municipalities.
Right. Any other comments? But Dan, do you need more than that to advance it for the next committee of the whole?
No, Mr. McConnell will be back in this seat next week, and he will have another report attached to committee of the whole, fairly similar to this one. And you guys will be able to provide us direction at that meeting, so we will get our appointment requests in before June 30th.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to be clear, we're going to have a more wide-ranging discussion regarding this at committee of the whole next week. Okay, that's excellent, because I think where I saw real value for us in the ministerial meetings that you sent, because they have a lot of meetings with a lot of municipalities, and there's a lot of redundancy, because we all have very similar needs. So having the opportunity to talk about what's our specifics and not the general, not we need more daycare, but actually we have a waiting list of 78 people.
Right.
We have facilities that have disappeared, but being very specific about it can help our message be clearer and better for us. So if we can, during the discussion, just something for everyone to consider coming into discussion about having a clear and very specific to Fernie message that we can deliver will be helpful.
Yeah, and on that note, I would encourage council to take the existing report and ponder it a bit further and potentially even, create some goal for messaging for those ministerial meetings so that we can have that, as you say, wide-ranging discussion next week and determine which meetings we really want to pursue and how it is we want to deliver our message. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Danny. This brings us to item 10, correspondence, and item 10.1. Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you, Worship. I have a previously declared conflict with regards to my relation to the Walking Music Festival, and I'll have to recuse myself for this.
Thank you. Sir, would you mind screening the door? Thank you, Ms. Lyon.
When he comes back in, we'll sing that one.
Yeah.
No, just so he does his people.
So item 10.1, the request for municipal significant event designation for the Wapiti Music Festival. And folks will have seen the correspondence. We have a draft recommendation that council designate the Wapiti Music Festival as a municipally significant event. Can I get a mover for that? Councilor Artie Kelly, seconded by Councilor Schuzman. Any discussion? It almost goes without saying it's a municipally significant event. It's an incredible draw and it's an incredible event for the community alike, visitors and locals. So yeah, wholeheartedly support this. So any other thoughts? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Please, thanks. Yeah.
Is it warmer out there or cooler?
It's cooler in here, this is where all the cool people are. I was waiting for that.
That was very good.
Thank you. Anything under correspondence that folks would like to speak to? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports from council members, and I will start this evening with Councillor Audrey Kelly.
So I was fortunate to attend a performance of The Sound of Music by the Fernie Academy Players. It was absolutely awesome in the Knox Church Performance Center. I did encourage people on my social media to go to it because it was just brilliantly done. So kudos to everyone involved in that production. And I want to say a very big thank you to Director Heisler, CAO Bornowski, and Doug Mitchell for the tour of the wastewater and water systems. It was extremely enlightening, and I am very impressed by the knowledge and expertise of our staff. And thank you. And that's all from me. One happy birthday to Councillor Isaac.
You actually look a bit like Brian Wilson. You could do worse to see your teeth that way. Councillor McIsaac, anything to report?
Oh, thank you, Worship. Not very much. I too want to thank Mr. Hauser and staff for the tour, familiarizing all of us. And I've been on it before, but every time I go, I learn more and I appreciate it. So thank you very much. I think it's, you know, it's an unfortunate reality, I think, is that a lot of the stuff that gets attention around the council table all the time is the pressing needs of the moment, and a lot of it is the niceties and pleasantries and things that make our community a great place to live. But below the surface of that, the infrastructure that's necessary that we often give very little thought to, and I don't mean this particular council, but I mean our community in general, because it just works. And but boy, oh boy, it's really important. It takes a very dedicated group of people, a lot of hard work to keep it so that we don't notice it. It just works. So it's, it was really fantastic.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, I was fortunate enough to represent the city of Fernie in your absence at the 2757 cadet ceremony. It was really cool. It was lots of people, wonderful cadets. I congratulate all the parents and the cadets on their achievements. Second thing is there's another volunteer opportunity in the community. It's the Elk Valley Ultra on June 25th. I'm sorry, getting the dates wrong. I'll send you the dates as well. So it's a unique event. It's a 50-kilometer ultra running in mountains. Wonderful people, great views, fresh mountain air, and you can also watch all the athletes, fast and slow, come by and enjoy looking at them. So highly encourage people to get on that. They need about 20 volunteers, is what I'm told. I apologize, I couldn't attend the Legion luncheon. I was sent in my invite, but due to some family sickness and such, I couldn't make it. And last but not least, just like the other councillors mentioned, was super fortunate to go and look at all the various operating facilities. Like I mentioned to Director Hausler the other day, I was actually paying close attention to some of the handover notes, schedules, and just doings on the whiteboards in all those facilities. It was very pleasing for me to see that people take a great care, and there's significantly positive morale in their teams, and kudos to the leadership team to have nurtured that culture of excellence within the organization. And again, there are issues. I don't disagree, but we can solve those things, but getting the morale and, having a positive work culture is a good start.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
Thank you. Councillor Schuster.
Yeah, definitely received some earfuls at the Sophie Morijo open house, which isn't a done thing quite yet, so if anybody has any thoughts or would like to approach me, I'm definitely available to your concerns. And yeah, I was also on the water sewer tour on Saturday, and that was excellent. The big reasons that I threw my hat in the ring was I felt that that was underserved in our community, and I really enjoyed the tour. Hats off to the people that have kept it running in the face of all the challenges.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. I guess I was remiss in congratulating the FTA in running their Trail Raiser on May 20th. It was a super fun event. Congratulations. I think they made a lot of money, which goes directly into the trails. It's fantastic. I also went to France. Saw a lot of cool stuff in France. It's always interesting because looking through that lens, of that local government lens, you wonder how do these little communities do it, right? And recycling, and it's just really interesting. I took some neat pictures of different types of recycling and bins and, small communities and speed limits and stop signs and it's all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
So you weren't kidding about the slideshow you're doing?
Oh yeah, no, it's a slideshow later. I bought that one off the garage sale. And then we came back, and I was completely jet lagged, but went to the operations facility tour, and I want to thank Mr. Hustler and Mr. Bornowski and Doug. Fantastic tour again. You learn something new every single time, and it's great to do it. So, thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, before I start, I will just echo those comments about the tour. It was really interesting, and Mr. Heiser and I had a conversation about it the other morning, and it's it's important that we're now all speaking the same language in terms of what the system looks like. It's complex from Ferry Creek out the other end of the pipe. The water goes through a lot of steps. So it was very grateful for the tour and the support from Mr. Bornowski and Doug Mitchell, and always appreciate his sense of humor. So really enjoyed that, so thank you. Well, since we last met, I attended Federation of Canadian Municipalities in Toronto, as did Ms. Jansen, our Director of Asset Management, and it was a great opportunity to connect with other communities, other community leaders, other community staff, and sort of hear about what their challenges are, many of which are the same challenges, and understand what they're doing about it. And so it's really worthwhile. I think we've sort of had this conversation before about not losing sight that, as a municipal government, we exist nationally in an ecosystem of other municipal governments, and it's really important to build those connections. So I really enjoyed it. And next year is in Calgary, and so we should, those of us who can attend should attend. It's very valuable for us. As well, last week I got to appear on the radio with Chris Walker, CBC, who did a great little panel at the art station, and I listened to it the next morning. I was grateful. It wasn't embarrassing to listen to. And I want to thank Yika Gayoki and Jen Riddell, who appeared on the panel with me, and Jen and her husband Robert are a couple who moved to Fernie in the last 18 months, and she gave a really great perspective coming from a busy life in Montreal and landing here, and real contributors to the community. So it was very short notice reaching out to Jen. I'm really grateful that she could attend. So thankful for her. She added a lot to that. And on that note, just want to congratulate Tourism Fernie. They received a $200,000 grant for their Ambassador Wild program, and so that's a great effort locally for supporting our outdoor amenities that are quite far afield in some cases, including Nichols Trail. So it's a great program they run. We had the skate park, sort of an unofficial, official groundbreaking sign unveiling with some of our supporters, including folks from tech, and that was a great event, and it was neat being there. It is it's hard not to look at the existing, or what was the skate park, and your heart falls a little bit because it was so well used and well loved, but knowing that it's being replaced by this great multi-wheel facility, accessible multi-wheel facility was very encouraging. So, and even as we were there, people kept rolling up and looking to see what progress was being made. So it was pretty encouraging. Echoing Councillor Shoesmith, I want to thank all those folks who came out for the Max Church public engagement session. And would encourage, folks feel they have been heard, please reach out and let us know your thoughts. It will be on the agenda for our next council meeting on the 20th. And last but certainly not least, Yakat Advocacy, also known as the Tobacco Flames, they're hosting a cross-border walk on Indigenous Peoples Day, June 21st. And I've participated in the past, and it is quite a powerful experience, not least of all being drummed through the border, but the ability to walk through the border unmolested, as it were, and come back without having to talk to the customs on either side is a very symbolic act in terms of recognizing that the border did not exist for those communities in times past. And so I would encourage folks to attend, anyone watching. It is an open invitation to our communities, so please attend if you can. And so thank you, everybody, and with that, I will ask for a resolution to close on the following staff recommendation that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90, sub 1, sub C, labor relations or other employee relations. Councilor Nixon, seconded by Councilor Shoesmith. All in favor? Thank you. And so we'll now move into close. I'll thank everybody who's attended online for attending. Wonderful evening. I'll take a 10-minute break. That's okay with it.
Turn on the AC.
And turn on the AC.